Hello, everyone. Happy Saturday to you all. Happy weekend. Hope you're very well. You should be very well because of this. Norwich City have won. Well, the title or the first line of the description of this video probably says 2 wins and 6 points. Can't remember now, but it's three home wins on the spin at Carrow Road, which for all the talk we've had all season is much better and quite clearly. And this was the latest one, 2-0 win here at home against Cardiff City, who are struggling. They can't really score goals, but they also are quite difficult to score against, and they did come here in good form. And actually, when I look at how bad the first 20, 10, 15 minutes were, so they're mowing around with their new electric mower. Anyway, yeah, sorry. When I say it was a bad first 20 minutes, it was just, Norwich were caught out a lot early on, and Norwich were generally poor, but then the game became poor. Then Gabriel Sara turned up, scored a wonderful goal with a low shot. It's a wonderful finish. A moment after he had another great shot that was deflected off target Cardiff head. So Gabriel Sara grabbed the game. That earned Norwich their lead. And then Marquinhos, who's making his debut, his first appearance in a Norwich shirt since joining on loan from Arsenal, he then scored a wonderful second that was made by Anel Hernandez. And two really positive moments. From that moment, you never felt that Cardiff, they had a sort of couple opportunities earlier on, but they never really looked like being a team that were going to be able to score a lot of goals. And you could see why they've had their struggles. And from that point, the game dynamic was completely different. Once Cardiff went 2-0 down, you kind of felt that was the game over and done with, and then Norwich would be absolutely fine from there. And they were, really. Cardiff barely looked like registering anything. And Norwich had complete control of the second half, really, and should have probably won by 3, 4, 5, ultimately, in the end. It was a difficult afternoon for Cardiff. They've been a lot harder to play against than they were today. If they can score enough goals and sort themselves out, then they will survive this season. But obviously, it's quite a difficult afternoon for them. So, but you know, they'll have easier tests. And at this point, it's probably fair to say that Norwich, in turn, they are picking up points, which is really good. But they are doing that in a run where most of us would have looked at it and gone, well, that's a good run for you. So the fact that they have picked up these wins is great. They've delivered. They've done what they need to do. It does make the next coming up game, the games coming up especially, at Millwall, I think, at the weekend, and then at home to Sunderland the following weekend. You know, they're against teams that are doing quite well. Sunderland possibly overachieving slightly. But Millwall look a really tough nut to crack. That will be a fascinating trip to the Den next weekend, which I'm really looking forward to, because ultimately Norwich have really struggled against teams at the top end of the table, against the teams that have looked competent this year. And there are definitely positive signs with how it's being worked under David Wagner and the coherence in the Norwich team. And that bodes well. Obviously, there are a few injury issues at the moment, but they have now got a full week to recuperate and recover and get themselves ready for that trip to Millwall. It was really interesting speaking to David Wagner after the game, actually, because he made it quite clear that with Kieran Dowell now being out until the middle of April, which is a real blow, that's Marquinhos' role. It's not going to be a question of sort of moving people around in the forward areas. That's initially where he wants Marquinhos to play. That's his role, and he will now come in. And he did well. I think for a first appearance, he did very well, actually. Assist and a goal, and you can see he's not at his top level, but you would expect that because the guy has barely played any football. So real encouragement there. It was a really good finish, as I said, made by Anel Hernandez, who, you're probably going to do well to think of a player who has been more consistent than Anel this season. Sorry, even my new headphones. Maybe it's my ears that are the problem. My new headphones are coming out. That's annoying. You do well to find a player who's been more consistent than Anel Hernandez this year. And On the Ball podcast favourite Dan Brigham suggested, I saw during the game, Anel Hernandez for player of the season. Well, maybe. His probably closest contender now is Gabriel Sara. And I have to say, it's not very often this happens, but speaking to Kenny McLean after the game today, he was absolutely raving about Gabriel Sara. He said Norwich got to grips with the game as soon as Gabriel got to grips with the game. He just was completely full on in his praise. And when David Wagner was asked, he then tried to sort of smooth it out like you would expect from the head coach, and bring in the fact that Kenny was very good and the two of them were a good combination, and obviously the team's in a better moment. And that's what you would expect from the head coach. But certainly it was noticeable how Kenny raved about Gabby. So that's a good impact, and it's fair enough because again he does seem to be getting better and better, and it's hard not to be impressed by him. So it's really good that that's coming together because, as you know from a couple of weeks ago, he's a lovely lad. We've got a lot of time for him. So he's doing really well. Interesting that Dimi Anulis was given a break, but Sam McCallum actually played for the under-23s, or under-21s as it is now, yesterday, and it was Jacob Sorensen who started today. So a player who Dean Smith was desperate not to play at left back if he could possibly help it, gets his first game under David Wagner, who said that he deserved it, at left back, which, you know, Jakob is perfectly capable of playing loads of different roles at a competent level. It's just very interesting that was the option that they took. We also saw Abu Kamara on the bench as well, which was great. This was a strange afternoon in Carrow Road because the PA system did not work. You know, I've covered games at various grounds in Norfolk football. I came to my first game here in 1989. All of them had a PA system playing music at the very least. So to have that was very strange, and probably a little bit reminiscent of the games behind closed doors during lockdown, because I don't think there was a proper PA system then. Obviously, there were announcements. Sometimes there was music, sometimes there wasn't. But obviously, some grounds they literally pumped out crowd noise over the PA. But a really weird, surreal atmosphere, and it asked a bit more of the crowd, and I thought the crowd did very well. Bearing in mind they didn't have their drum to lean on. And it is much more enjoyable being at Carrow Road. You know, as a bigger picture, things are better here. The atmosphere feels better. Life feels better. And for the fact that I still believe Norwich should be, you know, higher up, things should be in a better position. You know, that is a bigger picture, and you can't go on about that all the time. And ultimately, at the moment, David Wagner has spoken really well about the player projects he's got in terms of Jolis, who again looked right when he came on today. Adam Ida, who I thought worked hard. Maybe this was the game too far in terms of his fitness. He had a wonderful chance early in the second half where he rounded the goalkeeper. He did the right thing, but he got kicked at that point. And then he just went a bit wide. And I mean, he then sort of takes a shot and he's unbalanced, and a bit more composure. He should really get that on target, obviously, because it's an open goal. But I also feel for him a little bit because, you know, maybe he should just go down. The keeper's basically taking him out, really. And if he goes down, it's probably a penalty and, I don't know, potentially a red card, I guess. It's difficult. I felt for him a bit because there's a lot of good stuff he's doing, but he was really quiet. And the game sort of happened around him tonight, whereas I thought on Tuesday night against Birmingham, he was outstanding, except for scoring the goal or creating a goal that maybe he deserved. That I was included in that. Apologies, there was no content on Tuesday. It was a bit of a strange night for me. I was here for the most part, but not here in its entirety. I have since watched the rest of the game. I just wasn't here at full time, so I couldn't produce the normal service, and I didn't get the chance to do it afterwards. So apologies if you missed my report. I would have said that Norwich were pretty good, Birmingham were rubbish, and should never really have been allowed back into the game. But, you know, they are fighting for their lives and probably tried to do that. There was a decent degree of Norwich showing some good composure and finally putting the game to bed. But again, it's probably a little bit symptomatic that Norwich are beating bad teams at the moment, even if they're in a good moment themselves. So we will see how that develops over the course of things going forward. But as I said, it's much better. It's a nice moment for Norwich, and they have a wonderful test coming up at Millwall, which will be very interesting. And a real test of where this is at the moment, because there are a few challenges for the team to deal with right now in terms of fitness. Anyway, those are quite annoying mowers, and I appear to have a guy with a clipboard staring at me. I will be going down there, so it's fine. Thank you. Oh, he's a section head. Very important. There we go. That's it. I know, I keep everyone waiting here. I am keeping everyone waiting. So let's crack on. I think I've covered everything. Clean sheet, that's nice. And yeah, I think everyone feels all right without really thinking about it too hard. And yeah, enjoy it. It's a victory, isn't it? Another victory from the Brazilian boys. I look forward to seeing more of Marquinhos and more of Norwich as they go forth. And hopefully multiply in a nice way. Yes, right. Thank you all. Hope you're all well as well. I'm going to head off and enjoy the rest of my evening. I'm going to take down the score, as enjoyable as it was. Oh, no, I haven't actually taken down the score. Now I have. Enjoy your evenings. I will see you anon. And I will see, well, on the Ball podcast on Monday. Yep, we'll do that. And then I'll be in London, which is exciting, on Saturday at the Den. That will be fun. I'm really, actually genuinely looking forward to it. See you then. In the meantime, on the Ball City and fun stuff like that. Goodbye.